Now that we have a Git repo up and running, we need to add some files for it to track. Now, remember, Git doesn't just automatically track every file in the directory as soon as you put it there. It only tracks the files that you tell it to. Now, from a very basic standpoint, if you remember back when we were talking about how Git works, a file can be either tracked or untracked. Now, untracked files are files that have been added since the last commit. Now, since we don't have a commit, as soon as we add some files to this folder, automatically they're going to come in as untracked files. So to deal with that, we're going to use the git add command. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go over to my Finder window. I know we could do this in Terminal, but I'm faster in the Finder, and that's that, okay? So I'm going to go to the exercise files folder that we copied over earlier. I'm going to go into Chapter 2, and I'm going to go into 02_07. And there's a whole ranges of files in here. I'm just going to grab all of those files and copy them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate back out to my repos and go into the Git Basics repo, and I'm going to paste those items. So it's going to copy over the index.html. It's going to copy the CSS folder and the _scripts folder as well. Notice that the _scripts folder also has another subdirectory inside of it as well. So there actually is a good bit of structure here, even with just our initial files that we've added. So I'm done with the Finder. I can go ahead and close that. Now remember earlier in the last movie, we talked about Git status and how kind of important it was. When we ran a Git status before, it said, okay, you're on the master branch, you've got the initial commit forthcoming, but there's really nothing to commit right now. Well, that's going to change if I do another Git status. So I'm going to try Git status again. And here we go. You can see it's like, okay, you don't have anything to commit yet, but it alerts us to the presence of all these untracked files. So we have _CSS, _scripts, and index.html. Git also tries to help you along a little bit. You'll notice that directly under untracked files, it says use git add and then the file name to include in what will be committed. So that's the very first thing we're going to do. I'm going to make this window a little bit bigger so you guys can see this maybe a little bit better. All right, so all I have to do is type in git add and then a space and then the file I want. In this case, maybe index.html. As soon as I do that, it's going to add it for me. Now, remember earlier when I told you that we don't really get a lot of feedback sometimes. There's no feedback for me to know if that worked or not. I assume it worked because I didn't get an error message, and there's nothing telling me that, hey, I can't find that file. But I don't really know that it worked. So if I do a git status again, so I told you we would be doing that all the time. Now I get a little bit more information. It says, okay, you had all these 3 untracked files, but now you've got changes to be committed. So changes to be committed, the new file is index.html, and it gives us that these subdirectories are untracked. Okay, now, as you could probably guess, using git add and then the name of the file is a really inefficient way of adding files when you have a lot of files to do. There are a couple of ways that you can do that. If you have like 2 or 3 files, you can string them all together. So I could have done git add index.html space and then another file name space and then another file name. So I could have done that. You can also use wildcards. If you wanted to add like all of the HTML files, for example, I could do git add and then star.html. So I could do a wildcard like that. One of the best ways to add a lot of different files at once, though, is just to do this. I could do git, add, space, and then a period. All right, so git, add, space, and then a period. So what this does is it tells Git, hey, any untracked content, directories, files, whatever, go ahead and add it. This also works for subdirectories, which is something the wildcard doesn't. So if you have copied over a lot of files since your last commit, this is one of the most efficient ways to add all the files. So I'm going to do git space add space period, hit return, and now when I do a git status, now not only does it not show any untracked files, it's showing all of these files that have been added that are going to be available for our next commit. So what we've done here is we've added all of our new files, telling Git that we actually want to track these. Now, adding files like this adds them to the staging area. So we need to do that for both the untracked files, like when you copy in stuff, as well as when you modify files later on, you'll need to add them as well. Now, once files have been staged, they'll be included in the next commit. And since we haven't done a commit yet, we're going to do that next.